What is something that is considered kindness but is just basic human decency? Once, back in 2014, I tripped down the stairs and sprained my ankle really badly on the way to work, and did 12 hours Saturday on it. When I took my shoe off, my whole foot and ankle swelled like a balloon. They wouldn't give me more than a day off to heal. Even with a doctor's note, it's still painful sometimes, and I suspect I actually fractured it. I also once had food poisoning really badly, same job, and my manager wanted me to come in anyway and just wear gloves. I refused to, and I got written up for it. I've been out of the kitchen since 2016 and nothing in the world could get me back into one. I remember being 16 and having a horribly infected eye after I had scratched my cornea. I had to call out for a few days because it was so bad that I couldn't even open my eyes to see my phone to call someone to cover my shift, let alone drive 20 miles to the restaurant to go down the list of people's numbers to call to cover me. The rules were that you had to call your own replacement if you weren't gonna be at work. After having my younger sister dial the number to the restaurant for me, I was told I'd be considered no-call no-show because I couldn't call my own replacement, or no, they would not type or send me a picture of the list so I could do it myself. My mom caught wind of this, and she was livid. The next day when she was off, she hauled me to the restaurant, asked for the manager that told me that, and then very loudly and in the main dining area asked why the manager was forcing people with eye infections to be handling people's food. Needless to say, the manager found a replacement and turns out it was no trouble at all. All that story to say that I wholeheartedly agree. I've been served by some people who were feeling unwell and I felt so bad for them. I always leave an even bigger tip than normal because chances are it's not their choice to be there. On the other hand, not holding people up, like I'm not going to plow through the grocery store aisle sprinting past people, but on the other hand, if you're standing there waiting for someone to grab something from another aisle, maybe not stand in the middle blocking the whole thing. I went for a run this morning. The trail was maybe 6 feet wide and two ladies were standing off to the side with one getting something out of the other's backpack. That's fine and whatnot, but the annoying bit was the other 3 people with them just scattered about the trail standing there waiting. They moved when I stopped and asked what they saw me running towards them, so you'd think they'd have just given room in the first place without having to be explicitly asked for it. Can I just say, this goes for all people who are trying to help you, not just waiters. I'm a veterinarian and for some reason, people have been going psycho on their vets and staff lately. Google it. Really, screaming, threatening, cursing. You wouldn't believe the stories. And that's when nobody has made a mistake. God forbid you text someone who'd rather be called or be full on the day they want a nail trim or something. I'm not talking about normal complaining, like this bill seems too high or I've been waiting too long. I'm talking about fuck you, cunt, type of comments said to female colleagues and receptionists. For example, for some reason, right now vet clinics all across the US, and most other countries, actually, are extremely busy and understaffed. For the first time in my lifetime, emergency clinics are closing because they can't get staffing. Pets with actual life-threatening emergencies are not able to get care, or their owners are having to drive them for hours, when obviously some of them don't have hours. People acting like crazy lunatics to vets and support staff are driving people away from the profession in droves. It's such a stressful profession as it is. That little extra of owner meanness just makes it not worth it. Man, last weekend we went to eat. The restaurant was slow, but we had a table of 8, and literally every person's order was wrong. Drinks were forgotten. They forgot the appetizer. The sides were wrong. The server was clearly new and maybe 19 years old. One person at our table was a little visibly frustrated. But aside from that one guy, everybody tipped him well and was patient and polite. I'm sure the kid was panicking, and I'm glad nobody was making it worse on him. He was learning. Once when I was checking out at a Hot Topic, the cashier asked for an email or phone number so they could send me coupons. I politely declined and said I didn't need any coupons. The cashier then said, Thank you for saying that so kindly. It surprised me. Are there really that many people who respond rudely to stuff like that? Retail and food service sucks enough as it is. Why do people gotta make it worse for workers? Similarly, giving your place in line to someone with a disability or a stroller. I do often miss who's behind me, and either the teller just calls the person and asks to go ahead in front of me or the person asks. They always thank profusely, but it's one of those things to me. It's basic decency. I can perfectly stand here for an extra few minutes and spare you the pain. Just usually apologize for having missed the person standing behind me and thank them for asking me to go ahead. Helping open the doors. Help someone pick something up that they dropped no matter if they're old or not. Offering someone a place in line. Sometimes being a decent person helps, and I'd rather be a good person than a selfish asshole. And also being polite to anyone in retail or food. I work in the food industry and I know how it goes, and I extend my respect to them as well, especially cashiers that are good people. I live in the southern part of the US, and gender roles are still a big part of our community. People will praise my husband for taking care of our child. No one praises me for the same acts. I don't need the praise. I chose to have my daughter and I'd do anything for her. My husband is the same way. I'm sorry if you chose a partner who doesn't do their share. It sounds like you need to find someone who is your ideal other half. There was a woman on here complaining that she only sometimes returns the cart if the corral is right next to her minivan. Her excuse was that she has kids and doesn't want to leave them unattended. This is one of lamest excuses I've heard yet. I have kids and live in an urban area. Unless it's a super high crime area, your little angel will be fine for the 15 seconds it takes to trot your sorry ass over to the corral with the cart. Or you can bring your kids with you to return the cart and then stick them in the vehicle after. After working in retail and having to develop amateur skills of a mental health professional, let someone have a bad day. I find shops stressful myself. Lots of people around and walking at you from all directions, loud music, making sure you're not being pickpocketed, hoping not break anything as you browse. I found 90% of customers to be just fine. I then say that 8% were just having a bad day. By staying calm and speaking quietly, rather than raising the tone of the conversation, more often than not I'd find they would eventually apologize and generally confide in me their bad day. And then the next time they were in, they made sure to say hello. Kinda feel the same way with some subreddits such as idiots in cars. We've all been an idiot in a car once in our lives. Pressure and having a shit day does that to you. I just think we're a bit too happy to jump on people when they act a bit differently to how we're expecting them to. No excuse for bad manners, but I do feel you could explain 5 out of 10 public freakouts just by giving a bit of space and time. Before this guy I worked with got to know me, we were talking. Someone nearby dropped a couple quarters and I went over, picked them up and chased the person down who dropped them to return the change. My coworker admitted he thought I was just going to keep the change and was delighted that I returned it. He meant it as a compliment, but I honestly felt a little insulted. Had this happen to me. Saw a family drop 100 pounds whilst walking away in a shopping center. Saw loads of people look at the money as if they were waiting to grab it once they'd gone. I just grabbed it, let them know they'd dropped it and gave it back. I was a teenager and couldn't believe how many adults were just waiting to pounce on it for themselves. Even had someone come up to me and say how nice it was I returned it, just said it wasn't my money to take. I was once waiting behind someone at a cash machine. He was taking ages, and in the end he just walked off and got into a waiting taxi. As I walked up to the machine, a shitload of money came out. I grabbed it and managed to get back to the taxi before it drove off. As I am giving the money back to him, I realize that he is really drunk. He tries to give me back some of the money, but I say number. In the end, he pushed some pound coins into my hand, which was funny, as I was only getting money out in the first place as I wanted some coins for the laundrette. So it worked out well for me in the end. An old male friend of mine once recounted how he and another female friend of ours saw this old man walking out of a van with the stash of bills he put in his pocket, but apparently missed it and the money fell on the ground. I think it was near €100. The girl immediately ran to him and gave him the money. The guy was shocked. As he told me this story, he was like, she was so stupid, and I was like, why? 'Cause she should have kept the money. Bro, I'm serious, I was in shock. An old man coming out of the bank with that amount, it likely meant he'd just picked up his meager pension and this MF really thought the right action was to rob some old man. What the fuck, man? If they want you to, but please respect their wishes if they don't. My dad has had a couple of surgeries and absolutely loathes having visitors in the hospital. He has no desire to be seen with tubes and lines coming out of everywhere. When he's tired and cranky because the nurses are coming in to check on him every few hours overnight, I've had to explain to people that I'm not being an ass by not visiting. I'd be going to make myself feel better, but making him uncomfortable in the process. We taught our kids to stick up for justice. Do the right thing. They would often intervene when kids were being bullied. We were talking with some neighbors recently and talking about our kids, now grown, and the dad said how thankful they were when our daughter stood up to some kids on the school bus who were verbally bullying their daughter. At dinner that evening, our daughter told us about the bullying. We called our neighbors and let them know what was going on. They contacted the school and were able to get it resolved. That was 15 years or so ago. So proud. Nice that they brought it up after all these years. This one grinds my gears. I'm a man. I buy my wife's products all the time, but surprised how many guys still don't. They're universally, didn't know this for years, color-coded. Brand X plus one of 4 or 5 colors equals done. I don't get how hard this is for some people. I know, periods are yucky is the usual, but come on. It's part of our nature, get over it. I also did 80% of the cooking until the last couple of years too. Take your gender stereotypes and burn them to the ground. 9 out of 10 times when a post from there makes it into my front page feed with a ton of upvotes, I leave it feeling genuine shock at exactly this. It is incredible that the volume of awful, shitty regular experiences is so high that my partner accepted my answer when I said no, or my doctor believed me when I told them something are considered extraordinary outcomes. Not freaking out at people and calmly talking issues out like adults. At work I have a coworker who was once seen as popular with coworkers and is still well liked by some. But things changed when I started working there. She hates my guts and I noticed she flips her kid at the slightest inconvenience. Someone from another crew returned borrowed tools that are now dirty. Few weeks and weeks of bitching to anyone who will listen about how incompetent they are. Someone starts a project she thinks is a waste of time. She will either go out of her way to avoid doing work or bitch about it during the whole project. Not long after I started, coworkers would come to me asking to borrow things or work on projects because it turns out I'm more patient and understanding. If someone returns dirty tools, I just ask them to not do that again, or to remember to return them once done. People find me easier to talk to and it pisses her off that coworkers don't hate me like she does. She's tried bitching about me to others who have come back telling me they wouldn't engage with her, and another saying she yelled back and told her to calm down and shut up. Perhaps this is more of me venting, but my point is that it's crazy that talking things out and being reasonable is seen as kindness or something extraordinary. The stories of bad dates I've heard from my wife and friend girls is hilarious and often contains some cringy, aggressive and unwelcome sexual forwardness. Like, I get that you are trying to take advantage of horny children, but fuck you and everything about you for taking charge. I'm only going to give one example because I don't have time to write hours worth or cringe here. I'm sure ladies can fill in gaps if you'd like. A guy insulted my wife all date. Her choice in wine, her clothes, the fact that she had a PhD, her eating all of the tiny portion on her plate, and when my wife was like I'm leaving, the creep star follows her out into the parking lot and grabs her neck from behind, then tries to dip her, like a dancing move. and planned a kiss on her. She rightly pushes him off and tells him in no uncertain terms to leave her the duck alone. Not doing this horrendous nagging, begging and aggressive sexual pressure shit makes you basic and uninteresting. Doing it makes you worse. Standing up for others when you see an injustice. Yesterday, I was waiting for some friends when I noticed an interaction between a man in his 40s and a young woman. Later found out she was actually 17. Something didn't sit right with me as she seemed quiet and like she didn't want to talk to him. I stepped in. I'm 5'08", so not very imposing, but I tried to make myself as big as possible, and told him to fuck off, which led to a discussion in which he tried to insult my intelligence, height and the fact that I dared to bother him. I didn't let it faze me and he got the message and left after a while. The group the girl was in, 4 people, was super grateful and told me how kind they thought I was, and I was just stunned, cause this shouldn't be considered kindness. It should be completely normal. I hung out with their group a bit and got them some water while I also calmed down a bit. Later a guy standing a few feet beside us asked if we knew this guy, and while he was disapproving of his behavior after we told him that we didn't know the creep, it was odd to me that he didn't step in at all, even though he was closer to them than me before the escalation and would probably have been met with a bit more respect. If you see something, say something. I'm going to take a different position on that. When I was a young woman, men would get in my face and yell, "Smile, honey." If I was happy about something and smiling, men would come up to me and proposition me. I think leaving women you don't know who are walking down the street alone is more like it. I'm not talking about meet cute. I'm talking about men of varying marital statuses, levels of sanity, and advanced age doing this to a 14-21-year-old. No, Grandpa, you are not going to have a chance with me, nor did God put me here to entertain you. Discreetly letting people know they have a fixable wardrobe thing going on at the moment. For instance, at the mall there was a young woman wearing a skirt and I noticed a few men were actually turning around and following her. This was unusual because she was not wearing anything revealing, or so she thought. Her skirt was tucked into her pocketbook and you could see her panties on one side. Good grief, guys. So yes, sorry guys. Also, tags that are sticking up, traveling with toilet paper, zippers down, etc. Telling people that you appreciate them. I learned that as I've gotten older. People don't feel appreciated often enough. 4 incidents that happened to me during the spring semester. I found a phone on the ground. I was able to send an email to the owner and hand it off to Compo. On 2 separate occasions I was stopped by people that needed directions. I simply walked them to their destinations since I don't trust my ability to give directions. I found someone's school ID on the ground once. Again, I let them know and handed it off to someone so Campo could pick it up. Is this kindness? I don't know. I don't know how you would define kindness. For me, those were just normal things to do. I have nothing better to do, so I'll just walk them there. I know I'd be fucked if I'll ask this, so let me leave it with someone and let the owner know so they don't have to worry. Is the difference between kindness and decency just the fact that someone does something normal for them but you don't see it often? If someone always does a certain thing, they don't think much of it, but if you only see 1 in 10 people act in that way, it stands out. Helping people you don't know simply because you can and see they need it. The other day I overtook this lady with a double buggy on the walkway and one of her children held out an empty crumpled up paper bag and just dropped it. The lady went to grab it but had a phone in one hand and the buggy with 2 children in the other on a downward slope. I see this and pick up the bag and continue walking and throw it away in a bin probably not even 20 meters down the way. Next crossing at the stoplight she taps me on the shoulder thanking me. What always bothers me here is those people that aren't respectful almost always get bad service and never seem to understand why. I on the other hand almost always get good service. I can't even think of the last time I didn't. It's like treating a human with decency and kindness makes them want to do the exact same back to you. Not calling you a creeper, and I do see the good intentions behind this gesture, but honestly I would be pretty creeped out if someone did this. My only thought would be, okay, this guy is about to rob or mug me or something, or why is this total stranger showing such concern for my kids? But I guess really that's just a sad reflection on larger society in general. Sad that an act of kindness like that would likely be so unusual as to trigger suspicion.